Hello, everybody. Trying to see if I can get the sound to work. Let me know if the sound is working now. Okay, can you hear the sound?
My name is Sapiens, Homo sapiens. I'm about 200,000 years old, and this is my life today. I'm searching for something, but I'm not sure what I'm searching for. On those rare occasions when I look up at the sky, I see all those stars. And as far as I know, only our planet has life. Among all the species here on Earth, I think of myself as the most intelligent, self-reflective, and wise. But am I?
The United Nations reported that the world is in serious trouble. The media are reporting on it. The world of scientists are showing data. The folks that have the ability to make change know that we're in trouble. So there's fear. There has not been this kind of destruction on the planet since the time of the dinosaurs, 65 million years ago.
I saw it as progress. progress has its price.
Over thousands of years, we've been progressively empowering ourselves, becoming more differentiated, more identified as unique human beings, but in the process, step by step, pulling back from the natural world. That process has gone so far now that we're running into a wall, an evolutionary wall.
An evolutionary wall? Is this the end of my life?
The only way we'll ever make it as a species on this planet is if we reconnect with nature.
Nature? Isn't that what I've been trying to evolve away from? Not to be dependent on nature? Not to be at the mercy of nature's wrath?
For the last 35,000 years, even as awakening hunter-gatherers, we've been pulling back from nature. And then about 10,000 years ago, we woke up to nature's seasons, nature's cycles. And in that process, we saw the possibility of becoming farmers. And that's been a process of empowering ourselves and taking control of our own lives, our own destiny. About 300 years ago, we saw not only could we farm nature, we could manipulate matter. And we pull back further from nature. Technically, our species name is Homo sapiens sapiens. And to be sapient means to be wise. So to be Homo sapiens sapiens means to be doubly wise. It's not only do we know that we know.
Sapiens sapiens. Yes, that's me. And because I know that I know, I've made up many stories of my dance and fight with nature.
In the Bible, there is a key passage that encourages us to have dominion over the earth. That means we would be in a controlling position relative to other life forms, other creatures on the earth, and they were in a position of serving us in our own evolution.
The story that science tells us very basically is that we live in a universe that's meaningless, purposeless, just simply an accidental material evolution.
We thought of Earth as just stuff, and it led to an orientation of use. So Earth is here for us to use.
And I think we've now come to the end of that track, and it's no longer serving us. And we see, instead of dominion, we're really participants in the natural world. And that's coming really much more into alignment with some of the Eastern traditions, as well as some of the indigenous traditions and spirituality. Buddhism talks about the interdependent co-origination of all things in nature, all things in life arise and coexist together. And it means we're not in a privileged position. We're not in a place of dominion. We're in a place of participation. A similar theme arises with the indigenous American Indian traditions, the aliveness of nature, that our aliveness connects with that aliveness. In Christianity, and to some extent in Islam and Judaism, the sense of dominion is now shifting towards a feeling of stewardship and trusteeship. So rather than having power over, we're in a respectful and responsible relationship to the natural world.
So the last 3.8 billion years that life has been on this planet, all of these individual species kind of started working together. By virtue of being in the same habitats and the same ecosystems, they begin to leverage those relationships in order to create conditions conducive to life. If you can imagine that sort of emergent property scaling up, it could actually explain some of the planetary phenomena that we see today.
So we're getting away from this idea that nature is all machinery and looking into the earth as a single living system.
That idea had a mystical name. Gaia. Imagine a scientific hypothesis in the 1970s named after a Greek goddess. No wonder so many people didn't buy it. But now, scientists seem to be finding that Earth can really self-regulate. Like any single living organism.
Earth is alive. Scientists thought for a long time it's only because Earth is the exact right distance from the sun. Because you see, our molecules, if they get too cold, they freeze up and the organism dies. If they get too hot, they unfold and the organism dies. We have to be in a certain range of temperature, and that's where Earth is. But over 4 billion years, this is what we've learned in the 20th century, the sun was 25% cooler. So it sent its rays to Earth, and Earth had all of these heat-trapping gases to keep the sunlight in and warm up the planet to the temperature for life. But over 4 billion years, the sun got hotter and hotter. As it got hotter, Earth drew carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere so it wouldn't get too hot for life. Earth has regulated itself by changing its atmosphere, by drawing down carbon dioxide while the sun heated up. So you see, if we in industrial civilization are now reversing that trend, we're actually going against the intelligence, the ordering that brought forth life.
There's evidence that suggests that the organisms, the biosphere, plays a very, very significant role into how the planetary systems work. And you add in the layers of the geosphere and the atmosphere, and it becomes an incredibly complex system. But that interactive system ultimately means that everything is interconnected and interdependent.
We're completely nature. We breathe the same air that every other animal breathes. There's no separation.
This understanding of the self-regulating nature of Earth, we didn't know about this. For 400 years in science, we just didn't. But now we're realizing we're destroying the billions of years of creativity that enabled all of this vitality to exist. But we're awakening to that mistake. And now we see, instead of thinking of Earth as something to exploit and use, we're beginning to realize it is a community that we are to join and enhance. That's the big shift.
If I had to dominate nature, animals were no exception. After all, they don't have feelings like I do. Or do they?
Where did we get this strange idea that animals don't have feelings? It actually goes back to one of the founders of the modern world, Rene Descartes. So he, back there with Newton and Galileo, they were giving birth to a new world. And Descartes, as the philosopher, was asking himself the question, do animals have feelings? And at first he thought maybe they do. And so he was starting off with animals close to humans. And then he was working his way down. And when he got to the oyster, that was too much. He just couldn't imagine an oyster having feelings. So then he just said, then none of them do. And he imagined then that animals were machines. And when they gave off sounds like pain, it just meant they were machines that were malfunctioning. I mean, it's a really bizarre view ultimately. And yet our factory farms, our cosmetics industry, we treat animals as if they were just sort of nothing. And it goes right back to this mistaken view of the nature of the universe. Western industrial people are at that stage now where we are challenged by feeling our way into the lives of the animals. The mother bear cares for her cubs just the same way we care for our children. All of these beings live within feelings that are just as intense as ours. It's not just making the planet work for humans. It's to participate in bringing forth a thriving, vibrant community of life, including all of the species of this planet.
If we take the 4.5 billion years that Earth has been around and we compress it into 1 year, so that the Earth is born on January 1st, just past midnight, and we're standing on December 31st, just before midnight. Life's been around for 3.8 billion years, which means that it showed up on February 25th. And then after about a month, we see photosynthesis. The planet rapidly changed from a carbon-rich atmosphere to an atmosphere that has quite a bit more oxygen. And as a result, we see a lot more diversification, and single-celled organisms dominate the planet through April and May and June and July and half of August. In September is the first time we have sexual reproduction. And then it isn't even until November that we start seeing fungi. And after the fungi come the fish. And then eventually we have land plants. And when terra firma starts being colonized, then we have insects and amphibians and reptiles and mammals. Flowers have only been here since December 20th. The loss of the dinosaurs, that was Christmas. And then if we go to today, December 31st, and we look at our ancestors, the hominids, the first primates that came out of the trees and walked the plains of Africa with 2 legs, they showed up at 11:30 this morning. And Homo sapiens sapiens, we've been here for 23 minutes. And the entire Industrial Revolution, which defines life as we know it, to where we look for ideas, how we presume, how we live on this planet, everything around our technologies and our media, the last 200 years, 1 second. That's it.
I'm such a young species. It's hard to believe.
We have something like 99% match of our genes with chimpanzees. Even with trees, we share 25% of the genes with trees. So that we're starting to realize that we're really all kin. We're all cousins.
And our understandings of many of the peoples that I come from and that I work with is that every aspect of creation, every aspect of an ecosystem is alive. From the smallest particles of creation to the largest. Each of them are necessary to be a part of keeping something in balance in the natural world.
I thought of myself as different, separate, superior. Yet all this is making sense. I convinced myself I needed to separate from nature, but I probably went too far.
And then so you can think, maybe this new deep understanding required our disconnection from nature. It's a possibility. Maybe to reach this full understanding, we had to go through this period of disconnection. Who knows for sure, but the exciting thing is that we're learning our commonality with all of life.
I can't give up technology and go back to living in a cave. Then what?
It's not about giving up technology. In fact, the way through our evolutionary wall is by designing the most advanced technological era ever. The biological revolution. The entire Industrial Revolution was ultimately about taking. It's taking minerals, taking soil, taking oil, taking water, and we're very rapidly learning that there's a limit to how much that we can take. So by redefining our relationship, it isn't nature is there for us, but we ultimately are part of the natural world. Our lives depend on it. And if we can quiet our cleverness and we can instead borrow the recipe instead of taking the raw materials, then we've entered the biological revolution. Biomimicry is the conscious emulation of nature's genius. We actually make an intentional choice to look to the other organisms for inspiration about how we can live better on this planet, for our designs, for our processes, our systems. So ultimately, a biological revolution means we as a species, Homo sapiens, has to learn to align itself back with the strategies that have succeeded for the other 30 million species that are on the planet today. And they've been around a lot longer than we have as a species. And so with 3.8 billion years of R&D behind them, you might say there's a little bit of genius in that we could borrow from.
We have, as a race, invented all sorts of tools. We don't have to abandon that knowledge. We need to use that knowledge, but open up our thinking and use those tools and that knowledge to then go back and revisit nature and find new solutions.
I used to think I could figure anything out. But how can I create objects without destroying nature?
The answer lies looking at nature itself. Take a look at morpho butterflies, an incredibly brilliant, bright blue color, but there's no pigment in these butterflies. The wings have nanostructures that create color just by their ability to refract light. And by emulating this design, scientists have created fabric, cosmetics, paint without the need for toxic dyes. In fact, they've even created displays that use minimal power and are fully visible in bright sunlight.
Mimicking nature is still far from being an everyday reality. But I'm starting to see the potential for a new technological era inspired by nature.
There are turbines that are powered with minimal energy that emulate the shape of the flow forms in seashells. There are self-cooling buildings that are emulating the way termite mounds cool, and even high-speed bullet trains that are emulating the beak of the kingfisher bird. One of the biggest challenges that we're facing as a species on this planet today is climate change. And the fact that we are pumping so much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, along with other greenhouse gases, that we're changing. We're changing the whole dynamics of the planet. That we actually have the opportunity to look to the natural world and ask, what do you do with an excess carbon dioxide source? And how do you prevent the production of that carbon dioxide in the first place? And plants provide an incredible opportunity. Plants photosynthesize, and photosynthesis is the magic combination of taking CO2 and water, and in the presence of sunlight, creating energy and sugars and oxygen. Learning from the plants, well, there's researchers that have now been able to use catalysts, pulling carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. There's enough energy that hits the planet every day to power all of our energy needs. And by learning from some of the specific parts of photosynthesis itself, we can biooptimize, we can improve on our solar panels today. And ideally, we get to a place where we're able to even manufacture our solar panels in a way that is sustainable. When it comes to biomimicry, the conscious emulation of nature's genius is ultimately about recognizing that life creates conditions conducive to life. And so to truly practice biomimicry, it's beyond emulating form, what nature has made, but it's also asking, how has she made it, and how does it fit in the larger ecosystem? And it comes from a place of quieting our cleverness and having a Thanksgiving. Thank you for sharing your ideas with me. Thank you for giving us some insights about how we as such a young species can actually learn to live here on the planet.
It's no wonder that as I moved away from nature, I was also moving away from nurturing my body. I used to think that all I needed to survive was a cold beer and a pizza. But now I'm realizing that I need clean air, clean water, the sun, and vibrant foods that capture those elements.
If you stop and think about what's happening when you're breathing, it can actually be a very profound meditation on your connection to the environment around you. You're taking in from the air around your body what your body needs to survive, and you're breathing out what is no longer useful to you. And the fascinating thing about that is the trees are doing the exact same thing, but they need what we're exhaling. And we need what they're exhaling. We really are that connected.
Trees are our partners. Trees are a critical piece of the life support system of the planet. In Los Angeles, the incidence of obesity, diabetes, skin cancer, asthma, and lung disease is killing people. That map of where the highest concentrations are is in reverse proportion to the highest concentration of tree canopy. Now, it's a socioeconomic correlation, but it's now being called environmental justice.
Trees have been my shelter and my fuel. Now I realize that they also help to store water.
When rain hits a tree, its leaves and branches collect the water and soften its impact on the ground. The mulch in the soil below the tree acts like a sponge and slowly releases that water into the soil. The roots and the fungi soak up that water, ultimately creating an underground reservoir. So trees are a natural water treatment system and can provide communities with this essential element.
Without water, I can only survive for a few days. And to think that my body is made up of about 60 to 70% water. The sun nourishes life on Earth. As a diurnal animal who evolved under the sun, how did I get to view sunlight as such a guilty pleasure? Besides my lifestyle taking me mostly indoors, I also convinced myself to stay away from the sun for fear of skin cancer. Did I overdo it?
We've discovered there's an epidemic of vitamin D deficiency, and this is contributing to the risk for diabetes, heart disease, certain cancers, osteoporosis. There are several other risk factors for heart disease, but vitamin D deficiency can increase the risk by as much as double. Interestingly, if we slather with sunblock and keep covered up with clothing and our vitamin D levels go down very low, we increase our risk for skin cancer.
Well then, I might just start giving myself a little fun in the sun.
We get charged up by being out in the sun. It actually helps our brain make serotonin, which helps us feel happy and alive.
It was only a matter of time until I started to feel the consequences of so many bad choices.
A research study was done across the US in socioeconomic groups where cord blood was taken from the baby's umbilical cord at the time of birth. This blood was analyzed for 200 and some toxins commonly found on the planet. The average number of toxins found in all four quadrants of the country was over 200 toxins, almost the entire panel. So what this tells me is we can't be too careful in terms of what we drink and what we eat and the air we breathe. I do prescribe medications. They definitely have great value therapeutically in my practice and in the field of medicine. I think there's room to include more natural approaches in terms of herbal or naturopathic approaches, which may be a subtler intervention and over time can bring the same desired result. Cost is very affordable and side effects are minimal to none. So in my practice, I will recommend a therapeutic nutrition approach before a pharmaceutical approach if I can avoid some of the possible side effects of the pharmaceutical medication. We still need to keep in the back of our mind that Western medicine, if the condition worsens, can always come in later and the patient can enter the allopathic system at that point. But it's not necessarily the place they need to start.
Over the last several decades, my distancing, I meant my evolving away from nature, took me far away from natural foods. Progress was to have a meal that was ready in an instant. Maybe the time saved wasn't such a great trade-off after all.
Definitely eating foods as close to their naturally occurring form from when they were in the field for vegetables and fruits is a healthier way to have them because the nutrients, the enzymes, the vitamins are all going to be more present, more intact in a larger quantity. So the closer to nature, the better. The more organically grown, the better.
If commercials seduced me with processed foods, nature is seducing me with beauty.
This is one of the healthiest things you can do is look at your plate or your salad and include these beautiful colors and try and include as many different colors on your plate that you can. This is a great thing to do with kids too.
Besides nature seducing me into eating natural foods, it also lures me back to health. I can recover faster from surgeries, have fewer complications, and need fewer painkillers when I'm taken to a room with a view of nature. I moved from living in caves to small dwellings, then villages, and now cities. Cities. Magnificent examples of my power and evolution. For centuries, they've helped me develop my skills as a scientist, artist, doctor, entrepreneur. But life in the big city, more than ever, is taking its toll on me.
The kind of lifestyles that we've gotten into, where we're continuously stimulated, keeps us in a state of continuous autonomic nervous system overdrive. This has a terrible effect on the body. And we know that just about every disease, every illness that there is, has a relationship to stress.
Just a few minutes on a crowded street has a negative impact on my memory and attention.
And many of our buildings now are very alien and separated from the natural world. The average office worker works in a windowless environment. They may think it's functional to have just a desk and a computer and an assignment, but those windowless environments, people are less productive, they're less motivated, they have higher morale problems, there's greater absenteeism. That's not productive over the long haul.
Having my lunch break in the wilderness isn't usually possible. So if I can't go to nature, why not bring nature to me?
We want to create spaces that will motivate people, that will satisfy them, and will bring them pleasure, where they'll be most productive. They not only have to be efficient and have recyclable materials and be non-toxic, but they also have to be affirmative and enriching. We have to do this with our manufacturing facilities. We have to do it with our schools. We have to do it with our homes and residential and facilities and apartments. All these need to incorporate this experiential need to affiliate with nature.
The times that I need nature the most is when I'm grieving. After 9/11, New York parks and botanical gardens had record numbers of visitors.
Nature for many people is a sacred place. And for all the churches and mosques and temples that exist in this world, often when people are mourning and feeling isolated and feeling just plain bad, what restores them and comforts them truly is Mother Nature.
What is the role of nature in a child's development? Well, if urban kids are spending most of their time indoors, then trends in childhood obesity, stress, and diabetes are only likely to get worse. When kids are spending this much time in the digital world, how can their muscles and body structure develop normally? Won't they grow up to be stiff and slouchy? Not only that, but apparently not as smart as they could be. Researchers discovered that nature deprivation negatively impacts the development of the brain in the early years.
Children who are deprived of nature are missing an essential ingredient that goes into their soul development. Kids that don't have a sense of awe and just feeling the exuberance of being out of doors and free are missing a major experience of what it's like to be human early in life.
The benefits of children being in nature, I think, are on many levels, from the physicality of working your muscles and building strength, to the socialization that happens from play. The sort of creativity that happens from children's play. The nervous system relaxation that happens from being in nature. Our brains are reacting to nature moment to moment. This is a whole body experience that is healing for us, really.
We're even starting to move the classroom outside, knowing that kids learn best when they're having fun.
The measure of progress in civilization has become deeply tied to the assumption that we can transcend nature. We might have been dropped from another planet as a godlike creature that really isn't biological, really isn't embedded in the natural world like other species. The notion of biophilia is that we have an inherent need to affiliate with the natural world that has been and continues to be instrumental in our health, our productivity, and our well-being. For over 99% of our time on Earth, we evolve in a natural environment.
When I'm in nature, I feel like a better person. When in nature, I become more caring and connected to others.
All humans have an inherent need to find meaning and purpose in their lives. We often historically have referred to that as spirituality, to have a sense that life has greater value than just being an isolated speck of matter at a moment in time in a vastness of the universe.
And each day, take one moment to take one breath and understand that that breath brings life into our bodies. And that same breath connects us to every other human being on this planet, to all the rest of creation on this planet. Sometimes the most challenging thing to do is to sit in silence with ourselves and to have a place and an opportunity for us to reflect and reconnect our relationship with creation and reconnect our relationship with our own emotions and our own spirit and our own mind and our own bodies, so that we can actually begin to be experiencing a fulfilled human experience.
The more we take time to be in touch with ourselves, to be reflective about our lives, the more we exercise the muscle of what's called mindfulness, which is learning to be able to pay attention to the stream of thoughts and feelings and reactions and desires. The more we do that, the more we're able to bring our best selves into the world. The more we're able to be a positive influence on others.
When I think of all of nature's gifts, it feels like falling in love. And what I love, I protect. When I love, I transform. And maybe, just maybe, instead of keeping on this path to self-destruction, I might break through that evolutionary wall.
There are people in touch with nature. There are conscious people who are motivated by love. And those people are offering solutions. So fear is driving towards solutions, and love is providing solutions.
We are part of this extraordinary story that's been going on for billions of years. And for the first time, we can look back with self-awareness and say, how can we now participate? And how can we take responsibility for this planet that we're living upon?
Let me tell you what I see. There are people in action all over the world. Because nature heals, the environmental movement is a social justice movement.
It's estimated that over 1 million organizations are pursuing nature's protection and restoration. This is the largest movement to ever take hold in the history of human civilization.
When you look from a scientific perspective and an ecosystem perspective, and you're studying it, you always ask the question, what's its role? What's its function? And you begin to see that every species has a role and multiple roles to play in keeping the whole system functioning. But we forget to look at the human role. So when you turn the lens and look at what this being, the human being, how it has been crafted, all of our functionality, our thinking, our creativity, our passion, our compassion, you begin to see, because everything has been adapted by the earth. We have been profoundly adapted by the earth ecosystem to a high state of intelligence, a high state of problem solving.
The universe took 13.7 billion years to bring forth this really amazing creature in which the magnificence of life and of the universe can come forth. All of this information we now know about the stars comes from wondering about the stars. Wonder then would be so central to what it means to be human. It seems obvious to me that one of our roles is simply to become astonished with where we find ourselves and really to praise everything around us.
In the beginning of my life, some 200,000 years ago, I was scared of thunder and creatures of the wild. So in the last few centuries, I've tried to tame nature and its creatures. In a very short time, I've disrupted billions of years of evolution and lost myself. Now I know what I'm searching for. And I see that I have choices. When the wind whispers, I hear nature telling me to follow. If I want to find my way home.
Are you still with me? How did you enjoy that movie? I just felt like being in my living room with my closest friends, enjoying this beautiful meditation on Mother Earth. My heart just welled up with love for all the beauties that we have been bestowed with. The privilege that we have to live on a planet where everything is just perfect. The atmosphere, the sun. Do you imagine how much universal magic had to come into place for us to be able to live on this gorgeous Mother Earth? I am so in love with nature's beauties. I know you are too. So if this touched your heart in any way, please let me know. Put a comment below and say, I absolutely adore going for walks by this river, or I absolutely adore playing with my puppy in this meadow, or I absolutely love going for a ride with my favorite horse. Or what do you love? What do you love? What do you remember when you were a child? How did it feel to just lay on a haystack and just watch the stars come up and kind of elbow your best buddy and go like, oh my God, there's a shooting star. Let's make a wish. Anyways, thank you so much for viewing this gorgeous movie with me. And the intent is to bring the 1 Million Meditators community together once in a while to watch a movie together. So if you have any suggestions of movies that we can watch together that are uplifting, inspiring, can you please leave them in the comments below and we're going to stream them live? And do tell us, where are you from and what you love most about yourself and this gorgeous planet of ours, which, let's face it, she's our only home. And when we fall in love again, because we've always been in love with nature, I know that. But when we fall in love again, then everything changes. Because have you read Power versus Force by Hawkins? Anyways, read it. It's an excellent book. So he basically said that you don't need a huge mass of people that are light workers or spiritual activists. You only need a very small percentage. And when that happens, that tipping point is reached and everybody's consciousness is being changed, is being altered, is being uplifted. So I know it sounds a little bit out there and a little bit woo-woo, but look at quantum physics and you will understand that you right now, when you hold in your heart a vision and a feeling of a thriving planet, that is what you're putting out. I know we're swamped with negative news and world doom and gloom, but I truly believe that the 1 Million Meditators movement can turn all that around. And it's not just us, I'm sorry. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of movements out there right now. So if that is you, if you're the founder of a movement who believes that we can turn it all around, Please leave a comment and I will get back to you. And let's unite our love force. I love you. And leave me some comments. Please leave me some comments of another beautiful movie that we can watch together. I love you. I love myself. And I love this gorgeous planet of ours. Good night for now.